All right. Well, good morning, everyone. This is such a beautiful station, although I have to say I've never seen it so quiet. Jeez. Wow. Great day today. I just want to begin by thanking our fabulous Worcester City Manager, Eric Batista, and the entire Worcester delegation for welcoming us to the heart of the Commonwealth, right? What better place to make a monumental seismic transportation announcement than right here in Worcester, Massachusetts. So I also am thrilled that we're back. This is a place, we spent a lot of time here. You know, a lot of gatherings, a lot of events. This is a wonderful, wonderful place. And today we reaffirm that by having it be the location where we're going to make a really, really important announcement. It's a beautiful hub for transportation. It's a vision of what's really possible, and you know, we're really, really excited to be here. And I would like to acknowledge, this is a pretty big crew back here. I'm pretty excited about this. We have with us, as I mentioned, the city manager, also members of the fantastic Worcester delegation, Representatives Mahoney, O'Day, LeBouf, Donahue. We also have Governor's Counselor DiPaolo with us. We also have members of our administration here, Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll, Secretary of Transportation Monica Tibbetts-Nutt, Secretary of Administration and Finance Matt Gorkowitz, MBTA General Manager Phil Eng, Secretary of Economic Development Yvonne Howe and Undersecretary Ashley Stolba, Director of Federal Funds and Infrastructure Quentin Palfrey, Climate Chief Melissa Hoffer, our Undersecretary of Decarbonization and Resilience, Catherine Antos, and Housing Deputy Secretary, Jennifer Maddox. We also have leadership from mass.gov, including Rail and Transit Administrator Meredith Schlesinger, our Highway Administrator, Jonathan Gulliver, our Aeronautics Acting Administrator, Denise Garcia, and RMV Registrar, Colleen Ogilvie. Our partners in government, from the Treasurer's Office, Treasurer Goldberg's office, First Deputy Treasurer Jim McDonald, and Deputy Treasurer Sue Perez. Members of our legislature, in addition to the Worcester delegation, Representative Michelle Ciccolo is here. Members of the MBTA board and DOT board, including Chairman Tom McGee, Mayor Koch, and Mayor Sisitsky, as well as Brian Kane. Others in municipal leadership, including Adam Chapdelaine, Executive Director of the Mass Municipal Association, and a special thank you to members of our Transportation Funding Task Force. From also with us today, Kate Deneen. These are some of the members of that task force. Kate Deneen, President and CEO of A Better City, who you'll hear from. Gardner Mayor Mike Nicholson. Brooke Thompson of AIM, Doug Howgate of Mass Taxpayers Foundation, Rebecca Davis, Mass Competitive Partnership, Jada Dang, Harvard Kennedy School, Linda Dunleavy, Massachusetts Association of Regional Planning Agencies, Melissa Fales from the Quabog Valley CDC, Paul Nedzwitsky of the Cape Cod Chamber, Brian Kane, as I mentioned, from the Advisory Board, Jason Palich, the 495 Metro West Corridor Partnership, Sandra Sheehan, Regional Transit Authorities, and Amy Shea, Health Foundation of Central Massachusetts. LG, did I miss anyone?
Who is not here?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Jesus. All right. But it's important. And it's important because not only is this how good policy is made when you get an input from a variety of stakeholders, including stakeholders who don't always agree on things. But that's how you get to the best policy, okay? That's the first thing. And second, it's one thing to have a policy, it's another thing to actually get it done and implement it. And we're an administration that is focused on, number one, not kicking the can, especially on things that are hard. I'd put transportation in that category. And two, making sure that we're ready to go when it comes to implementation. And so that I wanted to take the time to acknowledge everyone who is here, because it is through these partnerships and everybody doing their work in Team Massachusetts that we're really going to make the most of what we are proposing. And again, what I say is a transformational, seismic announcing for Massachusetts. When we took office a couple years ago, our state transportation system was showing the effects of decades of underinvestment. Bridges were in rough shape, often forcing long detours. Local communities weren't getting what they needed. Projects that had been talked about for years and years and years on end that never seemed to move forward, from West East Rail to the I-90 rebuild in Alston to the Cape Cod bridges. The MBTA had many days where it was barely moving at all, with slow zones everywhere. Contracts weren't being executed properly, and a deep deficit seemed to put our progress out of reach. It's not just that business as usual wasn't working. Things were getting worse. Continuing that way, in our view, was going to hold Massachusetts back. It was going to undercut our competitiveness. It was going to limit the growth of our economy. And it just wasn't respectful to the residents, to the people who depend on a well-functioning transit system. Everyone agreed that funding was needed, but there was no plan in place to dig out, let alone to do better. So we were determined to do things differently, and a year ago I established the Transportation Funding Task Force by executive order. They were directed with delivering a future-looking strategy to finance transportation and improve the safety, reliability, and efficiency of the system. In the meantime, we set a new record for federal funding. More than $9 billion total in transportation dollars and other dollars we brought back to Massachusetts over the last 2 years, and I'm grateful to the work of the team on that. Through all the applications submitted, we've now moved from where we were before we started, 34th nationally, to now 7th in the country, ahead of much larger states when it comes to federal funding. And with that, we were able to get projects moving. We got more resources to cities and towns. And Phil and his team fixed the tracks on the MBTA. No more slow zones for the first time in 20 years. Woo! It wasn't easy, and there's more to be done. But what we can say now to drivers, to riders, and to taxpayers is that the money you invest is going to get results. Now we can start building the system that our state deserves. Here's how we're going to do it. Number one, last year we developed a strategy to increase funding for transportation and education. We used a portion of fair share revenue to increase access to capital. This does not require new taxes, no new taxes. What it required was smart fiscal management, and what it's meant is a bigger investment over a longer period of time that we can make in transportation infrastructure. Now with fair share revenues up again, we can do so much more. Our plan is to invest over $8 billion over the next 10 years to improve transportation in every corner of our state. We'll act on recommendations by the task force, and we'll put our entire transportation system on stable financial footing, something that we haven't had for decades. We're fixing that. You'll see the results in big bridges fully open again, like the I-391 viaduct in Chicopee. You'll see it in smaller bridges replaced, like Commercial Street over Herring Run Brook in Weymouth. Communities depend on strong, safe bridges, and that's what we're going to build. We're also getting close on the MBTA budget gap, and I'm really appreciative of this work. There's been a lot of talk about the cliff that the T is facing, and it is real. And we've got a program and a proposal that is going to effectively close that gap, stabilize the T over the next several years, so that Phil and his team can take the T to the next level. You'll see more frequent trains and buses. You'll see major station upgrades. You'll see accessible platforms across the commuter rail from the Beverly Depot to West Medford to Franklin. Bottom line, you're going to wait less and you'll move faster. And once we fix the foundations, we can do so much more. We can be a state where everybody gets to where they need to go, safely, affordably, sustainably. Oh, and on time. I want to close by saying that this is about funding, but it's about so much more. It's about management, it's about execution. It's also about a vision. That's a vision where these task force members have stepped in to help us develop. Our statewide infrastructure, we want it to be in a state of good repair, safe, reliable, reliant. We want access for everyone in every type of community and in every stage of their life. And we want transportation that supports all of our goals for life here in Massachusetts, including strong businesses, a great quality of life, access to jobs, housing, and other opportunities. It's about getting us moving and keeping us moving in a great direction. This plan launches a new era in Massachusetts of sound management, sound vision, and great transportation for Massachusetts. And again, I want to thank everybody who worked so hard to get us to this day. And now I'd like to bring forward our terrific Secretary of Transportation, Monica Tibbetts-Nutt.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for allowing us to do this task force and to be able to have these very difficult conversations over the last year. As we often say, transportation really is the backbone of a thriving economy and a lifeline for our vibrant communities. It connects us to jobs, healthcare, education, and more importantly, one another. This is why Governor Healey and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll have been clear from day one that transportation is a priority. The administration's vision is clear: a safe, reliable, and efficient transportation system that serves everyone, including urban, suburban, and our rural communities. One of the big things that we were tasked with this year is not only looking at the long-term opportunities, but especially looking at the short term. This upcoming proposed budget will enable us to take bold steps towards modernizing and sustaining our systems. The MBTA has faced fiscal challenges due to declining fare revenues and rising costs. House 1 proposes a $2.2 billion investment to stabilize operations and improve service quality, including $500 million from fair share revenues. This money will support initiatives like the low-income fare relief, the MBTA Academy, and water transportation. These funds will also ensure that service expansions and technological advancements remain sustainable. We also have been investing in our regional transit authorities. The Commonwealth's 15 RTAs play a vital role in serving residents across Massachusetts, especially in underserved areas. We are proposing more than $200 million for our RTAs. This funding will support fare-free programs, connectivity projects, and paratransit services for older adults and people with disabilities. Ultimately, it will ensure that transit remains equitable and accessible across the state. I thank the administration for allocating $617 million for mass.gov operations. This will let us focus on critical services like snow removal, which is essential given our increasingly severe weather. Notably, the budget also supports the creation of a dedicated mega project division, which will ensure the efficient management of transformative projects like the Cape Cod Bridges and the Alston Multimodal Project. These investments will help address current challenges while also preparing for the future. Finally, the Transportation Funding Task Force concluded their work and is delivering a comprehensive report to the governor today. As I noted, Massachusetts needs a safe, reliable, sustainable, resilient, and efficient transportation network to connect all of our communities and move people. We also want to focus on enhancing our economy, but also our quality of life. This task force looked at and considered everything to ensure our transportation network is multimodal, accessible, and interconnected across the Commonwealth. Again, I really want to thank the Governor and Lieutenant Governor for trusting us. I also want to thank these task force members that have spent countless hours over the last year not only discussing the challenges for their particular areas, but learning every possible thing you can imagine about our various state agencies and especially about the T and mass.gov. From here, we will now get to the hard work of instituting the necessary changes to achieve these goals. This budget reflects a commitment to infrastructure, as well as a commitment to access, options, opportunities, and a better life for our residents. The Healey-Driscoll administration is building a system that benefits all who live and travel through this state by expanding transit options, maintaining critical services, and prioritizing long-term stabilization. Together, we are paving the way for a more connected, accessible, and prosperous Massachusetts. Thank you for attending today, and now I will hand it over to my co-chair, Secretary Gorkowitz.
Thank you for coming out to Worcester today for this exciting and historic announcement. A lot of hard work went into putting this plan together, and it would not have been possible without the support of Governor Healey and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, as well as my co-chair, Secretary Tibbetts-Nutt, my fellow cabinet members, my staff, and members of the Transportation Funding Task Force. So thank you all. I also want to thank Treasurer Goldberg and her team, First Deputy Treasurer Jim McDonald, and Deputy Treasurer Sue Perez, who have worked very closely with my ANF under Secretary Jen Sullivan in developing some of the financing mechanisms that are central to this proposal we're advancing today. So thank you. As Governor Healey mentioned, it was a year ago this month that we began the work of the Transportation Funding Task Force, work that would ultimately help us develop the plan we are presenting today. And through that hard work, it became immediately clear that we could achieve nothing if we did not focus on first stabilizing the finances of the system and repairing our roads, bridges, rails, and infrastructure. These form the foundation of our highway and transit system, and these systems are critical to our businesses, workers, and families who travel across all of Massachusetts. We also know that sound fiscal management means making sure we maximize the impact of what is a brand new revenue source for transportation, the fair share revenue. It is a resource that has since gone into effect for the first full year in 2024, fiscal year 2024, has outperformed expectations, yielding $2.46 billion of revenue in 24 for both transportation and education. This plan aims to maximize the impact of that fair share revenue by leveraging those tax dollars, combined with other resources, to invest $8 billion over the next 10 years in our transportation system. We will achieve that in a variety of ways, starting with the Governor's House 1 budget filing for FY26 that will be filed next week. Similar to innovative approaches we took last year in the Governor's budget to maximize a portion of the fair share revenue by putting it into the Commonwealth's Transportation Fund, we will propose transferring $765 million from the fair share revenues in FY26 to the Commonwealth Transportation Fund, an increase of about $500 million over what we proposed last year. This will allow us to do much more than just spend fair share dollars. We'll be able to borrow against those funds, yielding $5 billion over the next 10 years for capital investments in state and municipal roads, bridges, and rail. It will also allow us, on an annual basis, to more than double our operating support for the MBTA, immediately addressing their budget shortfall and putting the T on a path for long-term financial stability. Next week, we will also be filing a supplemental budget alongside House 1 to spend the $1.3 billion in unbudgeted surplus fair share collections from FY24. We will propose to dedicate $857 million from the surplus to transportation, rebalancing the distribution of fair share dollars so that we have a more equitable split, getting closer to 50-50. All of these revenue streams, along with the federal matching funds, which we will use to retire a portion of the to retire the MBTA's legacy debt, will enable us to stabilize the finances of the MBTA, invest in state and local roads and bridges, repair culverts, improve our commuter rail, and increase Chapter 90 by more than 50% to $300 million annually over the next 5 years. These investments have the potential to be transformative for our residents, our businesses, while also living within the resources that we have at our fingertips. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to General Manager of the MBTA, Phil Lang.
Thank you, Secretary. Well, let me first thank Governor Healey, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll for gathering us all here today and for making this monumental, momentous occasion a reality. I also want to thank the Secretary Gorkowitz and Secretary Tippett-Nutt, and the entire Cabinet for their unwavering commitment to strengthen transportation across Massachusetts. This $8 billion investment is truly historic and will have a lasting impact not only on the MBTA, but on transportation systems across the Commonwealth. And with this new funding proposal, the MBTA will see its operating budget significantly raised, and I mean significantly. I think I heard the word seismic, historic, so many different adjectives could be used, to $687 million in fiscal year 26. That's huge. And this is a game changer for the agency. It will immediately address the MBTA's budget shortfall and help us achieve long-term, reliable financial stability, making sure that we can continue to provide reliable services to the communities who rely on the T on a daily basis and visitors from near and far who come to visit the Commonwealth, and allow us to continue to partner with all the regional transit authorities across the Commonwealth. This funding will allow us to make key and wise investments in projects that the public has been long deserving and waiting for. It will allow us to upgrade rolling stock across all of our modes. It will allow us to improve red and orange line signal systems, enhancing station accessibility, and building more resilient infrastructure across the system. And these improvements will have an immediate and meaningful benefit for all the riders that we serve today and the communities that we want to serve in the future. The T will become even more reliable and efficient as we improve service. I commit to that. But this is not just about solving immediate challenges. This investment lays the foundation for sustainable and reliable transportation that will serve communities for years to come. We're committed to making the most use of every public dollar that we receive and to modernize our infrastructure, to improve quality of service, and ensure that the system is more accessible and resilient for everybody. We will use every dollar from this funding to focus on building a stronger, more capable workforce and delivering meaningful projects that improve the transit experience. The investment is a critical step towards building more efficient, effective transportation system as a whole that meets the needs of the riders and future generations. And we're proud to be part of this historic effort as we look forward to delivering that transit system that the public not only can rely on, but be proud of. And again, I want to thank the Governor and Lieutenant Governor, the administration, the legislature, the MBT Board of Directors, our workforce, the Transportation Funding Task Force, and the public for helping us make this vision a reality. And I want to just say I'm proud to be part of Team Massachusetts, and I'll hand over the mic to introduce City Manager Batista.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Worcester. $8 billion, that's a big deal. And we should all be extremely proud and excited about that. That is the sort of investment that we need to help stabilize and boost the viability of public transportation across the entire Commonwealth. And I'm pleased to join you and thank Governor Healey and her administration for this incredible investment, which helps to sustain transportation hubs like this beautiful building, Union Station, so that we can continue to connect residents, workers, visitors to and from Boston and beyond. And it's a key step in making the West to East Rail a reality in this Commonwealth. It's not just the commuter rail that operates out of this building. The Worcester Regional Transit Authority, which just celebrated its 50th anniversary last year, has a central hub right here next door. The funds being announced today will help to maintain the WRTA, which enables people across Worcester and 36 other municipalities get to work, go to school, and their appointments, do their grocery shopping, pick up medications, grab a bite to eat, and even visit friends and family. And I have to call out the Chapter 90 program, which is critical for municipalities in Massachusetts to fund needed improvements on our roadways. Worcester is the beneficiary of more than $4 million in FY25. And that is helping us to fulfill our goal to provide all residents with quality and affordable transportation options to meet their daily needs. This expanded program will pay dividends across the entire Commonwealth. But overall, the Healey and Driscoll administration is providing a model leadership in regard to transportation, and through this historic investment, demonstrates a commitment to a new chapter for transportation in Massachusetts, and not just Greater Boston, but across the entire Commonwealth. Investments in transportation, it also strengthens the economy and increases the growth of mid-sized cities like this city, the city of Worcester, helping to create jobs, accommodate commuters, and also generate tourism. I'd like to again thank the Governor Healey and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll administration, Secretary Tibbetts-Nutt, Secretary Gerkowitz, and the Transportation Funding Task Force for prioritizing the state's transportation network and infrastructure, and for recognizing the importance of this investment and the improvements it will make possible. I am proud to serve also on the board of the mass.gov, Department of Transportation, which is prioritizing infrastructure and accessibility upgrades to build and maintain, and most and foremost, an equitable transportation network. I'd also like to thank MBTA General Manager. What a guy, huh? This guy's famous. For his continued partnership as we strengthen rail service and access in Worcester and also across central Massachusetts. I want to thank also Mayor Petty and our entire city council, and I know District at Large, City Council King is here, and also Council Russell was here, and to the entire state delegation for their continued efforts to support transportation improvements in the heart of the Commonwealth, the city of Worcester. So thank you, and congratulations.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kate Deneen, President and CEO of A Better City. It is so wonderful to be here in Worcester today in this beautiful space. Shout out to MassDOT, the MBTA, Keolis for a seamless commute here from Back Bay Station. It's just wonderful to be surrounded by so many friends and colleagues today to talk a little bit more about this really historic investment in our statewide transportation infrastructure. So at A Better City, our mission is to engage with the greater Boston business community to develop solutions to address transportation, land use, and climate issues. And our vision is to create a more vibrant, competitive, equitable, and sustainable city and region for all. So with that context, it's been an honor to serve on the task force for this past year. I was counting back on my fingers. I was sworn in on maternity leave, and now my daughter's 11 months old. So it has been a year. And thank you to Governor Healey, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, Secretary Tibbetts-Nutt, Secretary Gerkowitz, and their teams for convening this task force and really confronting our transportation crisis head on. Also, thank you to all of my fellow task force members standing behind me for their partnership and their patience over the past year. And it's just so wonderful. I'm so proud to be part of Team Massachusetts. It is really thrilling to be here today to release the Governor's Transportation Funding Task Force report and to support the administration's proposal to stabilize our statewide transportation infrastructure. The central recommendations put forth by the task force are strategic, fiscally responsible, and actionable. And with today's budget proposal, the Healey-Driscoll administration is indeed taking immediate action to implement many of these recommendations to address our most pressing statewide transportation needs. The administration's historic plan to stabilize our infrastructure will invest, as you've heard, $8 billion in our transportation infrastructure over the next decade, and also resolve the T's budget deficit by more than doubling support for its operating budget. By prioritizing the equitable use of fair share surtax funding and utilizing federal funding, the governor's proposal reflects the task force approach and the tactical recommendations to both expeditiously and transparently direct billions of dollars in capital and operating funding to make critical investments across our state. And standing in front of my fellow task force members, it's really important to note that in alignment with the recommendations of the task force, these operating and capital investments will touch every corner of the Commonwealth, not just the T and Greater Boston, but also our RTAs and our roads, bridges, tunnels, culverts. We talked a lot about culverts in municipalities from culverts matter, from Williamstown to Provincetown. So it isn't just about stabilizing our infrastructure in the abstract. It's really about improving the lives of Bay Staters and catalyzing economic development. We know that every dollar invested in public transportation generates at least $5 in economic returns. Every $1 billion invested in transportation infrastructure supports and creates at least 50,000 jobs. And I think it bears repeating that transportation infrastructure can uniquely support and spur our sorely needed housing production. Jobs, housing, commerce, quality of life. In many ways, transportation is the key to unlocking a more affordable, equitable, and indeed competitive Commonwealth. The task force report makes some additional recommendations to enhance and transform our statewide transportation system, such as continuing to aggressively pursue federal transportation funds under the leadership of Chief Quentin, as I've heard him called today, and also to rationalize existing transportation fees and to assess the feasibility of new pricing strategies. So we will all have more progress to make in the sessions to come. But in the immediate, we know that our Commonwealth cannot thrive without safe, reliable, resilient transportation. And the governor's budget proposal today is an urgent step toward building a stronger system and a more competitive Commonwealth. I'm so grateful to the Healey-Driscoll administration's leadership and partnership. And as today's announcement demonstrates, we are turning the page on a new chapter for transportation here in Massachusetts. We look forward to working with the administration, with the legislature, the business community, transportation advocates, and riders and drivers and businesses in the coming weeks and months to realize this vision. Governor Healey, thank you again for your vision and for your leadership. Back to you.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you. Again, thank you to Kate. Thank you to all the members of the Transportation Funding Task Force. You know, none of us is as smart as all of us, as the LG will often remind me, and it's true. And that's why this broad cross-section of folks that have been part of the formulation of the recommendations, I know is going to mean greater success, that these are the right policies, this is the right direction. And look, I just say, you know, my takeaways from all of this, just having been at this a couple years, this is a big deal. This is a really big deal. And it's a big deal because it's tackling some of the systemic underlying deficiencies that people have been grappling with for years, if not decades. And I really want to thank Secretary Gorkowitz, Treasurer Goldberg, for taking a look and doing something that's never been done here before in the state. And that is finding a way to make sure that every taxpayer dollar that's invested is maximized. $8 billion over 10 years. $8 billion over 10 years. So thank you to the teams for coming up with that. Thank you to the DOT team and Secretary Tibbetts-Nutt. You know, I think about the work that Meredith Schlesinger is doing to make West-East Rail a reality, the work that our Highway Administrator, John Gulliver, is doing to make sure that we're addressing those bridges and those culverts, and also big mega projects like what's going to happen at the I-90 interchange there in Alston. What's that?
Pinch points. Those
Pinch points. Which, leads me to my last and final point. Every one of you traveled here today. I don't know how you got here, but I can imagine that some of you, were dealing with traffic, dealing with congestion. Thanks to Phil and the team, those who were coming by train, we've made some real improvements there. But I say that because transportation is part of the everyday experience of just about everybody in the state, right? It's how you go to school, it's how you go to work, it's how you go to a doctor's appointment, it's how you go to take in a game, whatever, right? And so that's why we've focused so much on transportation and this effort to make transportation work for you. And I am confident that as I stand here today, we have received recommendations, we have worked together as a team to put Massachusetts on a path to a kick-ass transportation system that is going to serve every resident, every employer, every sector of our state. It's going to lead to unparalleled economic growth and prosperity and opportunity. It's going to help decarbonize and address our climate challenges by getting more people off the road. And at the end of the day, won't it be nice to have a better quality of life and to take one of the headaches out of the day by ensuring, that you're going to get somewhere on time, in a way that you and your family and your employees can count on. So, I'm just the governor, but when I boil it down to all that, what this is really about, to me, that's what this is about. And again, I want to thank everybody who helped to bring this forward today. The work is not done. This is important, but if we didn't deal with stabilization, if we didn't deal with the foundation, which has been crumbling for decades, we're not going to get a chance to build anything meaningful. You know that. You can't build a house without a foundation, or if it's a lousy foundation, the whole damn thing's going to fall apart no matter how pretty it looks on the outside. So we've done that today, and I know this team is going to hang together, not going anywhere, by the way, as we work forward, both in terms of implementation and also the further vision for what transportation is going to look like in this state. We're happy to take any topics on question. Okay. Good? Very good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Woo.